Hello, everyone, and welcome to the broadcast. I'm newtmechanist, and today we are going to be continuing our game dev project. Before we get into that too much, though, let's check in with the kitties. We do have Ember's hind paw visible there on the side of the desk, crossing over onto the table, but not quite visible there. Molly is on my footrest. Sammy is on the bed there with Mason. Let's zoom into the play area a bit and see where they are. See if there's anybody hiding there. Oh, there's Sky passing through. A little rope toy got pulled onto the stone. Yes, hello, Ember. Ember demands attention. Because of course. So, if you folks recall, last time we left off... Oh, and hello there, Schmuggums. Welcome. If you recall, one of the things we were working on last time was trying to get it so that there wasn't a loss of linear velocity. So, ball passes in a straight line. About once a second, it crosses a line. So if we add in our zigzag pattern here, we are now crossing a line about once a second. This is great. Kind of works for the zigzag. And what we're doing is we are increasing the speed of the projectile along the zigzag path in order to maintain the linear path. This is great. It doesn't quite work how I necessarily want it to with an up and down motion. As you can see, it gets really fast on the downward path because that path is exceptionally short, is exceptionally steep. So it has to be extended much further. And I was thinking about it, and the state that we're in with the wave curve and whatnot was implemented because we were just trying to influence the existing motion. But I don't want to do that anymore. So now this pattern isn't necessary how it works. So instead, what we could do would be to combine the motion, the upwards motion, with the horizontal motion. We would still emit a single vector because we don't want it competing with the others. We want it to be uniform, but what that should mean is that we still just emit a delta adjusted unit vector to the right, but then also add, like in this case, a vertical vector. So that it would have to be adjusted for the actual direction. But it would be pushing upward proportional to the curve, whereas with the zigzag, it would be pushing upward or downward with a fixed value. That way, we can apply a couple of extra variables or configurations to the way that they work to essentially give it, to once again restore the concept of an amplitude to it. Wouldn't be perfect. It wouldn't be necessarily easy, 100% easy to know what you're creating, but I don't think we need to be precise with the results that we get. They just need to look right. So how do we accomplish that? Messily, but with some degree of freedom here. Put that back to 45 for now. This is one of the values that I want to get away from. And instead have this be an indicator of distance. like how hard to push on it. Or at least velocity. Okay, so how would we do that with zigzag? Well, to some extent, we do the same thing that we've been doing right here. But instead of solving for words and things, instead of solving for a increased length rotated one, so I'm not going to bring up paint again. Okay, 1 second. I'm going to bring up paint again. Oh, a bit of a flashbang here. Let's fix that. Boop. Okay, so once again, with our zigzag, we got that. And we have a little angle right here. Previously, we knew the length of this bit here, and it would account for an equal length bit here, because it would be rotated by that red angle. But what that left then is this little bit here. Because there is a... I'm just using all the colors so that you can see the different pieces I'm talking about here. So there's that piece there. The algorithm that I have works for determining what I would need to multiply this length by to preserve the full distance traveled here. So that when this drops down, we still have the full orange length along the linear path instead of losing it and stopping at the blue bar here. So that's great. That's great. But it's resulting in a bit of a set of equations that I can't really control. So what if instead, we still have our angle here, and instead of worrying about the hypotenuse here, there, put you here, we still have this whole distance. And what we want is that we want to hit this peak. So what if we create another vector and apply it right here? Now, what does that do? It creates this same vector here, this same full vector, but is much easier to calculate. So what we have is we have our straight line, we have an orthogonal off of it. So we still just need to calculate this, and then we get a 90-degree angle off of it. Since we know the length of this one is 1, and we know what this angle is, then what we need to do is calculate this height. Which is a very similar algorithm, which I'll have to look up real quick here. Should have bookmarked this site. Okay. Of 1 given a of 60. How do I calculate that? Okay, so we're still going to calculate for C. So let's go back in there. I'm sorry, we're still calculating for the hypotenuse, which is this little guy right here. This is the multiplier for the hypotenuse. Hey there, Kirito. Oh, I should show the screen. We're working on our game project. I've, Indeed, sharpshooter. Oh, we've got 3. You can see half of sky. I have coded half of a leg and a third of my back in Icy Hot today. I've been working on some new infrastructure for the cameras. Right now, they're okay, but they're prone to freezing and periodically rebooting, and do not want them to do that. So I'm working on a new solution that is more stable and also won't have dangling USB cords that Sky likes to chew. They are as armored as I can make them, but he still finds any exposed part and gnaws it. Indeed, Kirito, we are making a game in Godot 4.4 using mostly C#. We do a little bit of Godot stuff where we need to, but it's largely just setting up like base nodes and script kind of things. Like this is the kick off the game script, and we have a couple of other scenes. Don't worry about it. Like I tell everybody, there's no expectation that you already know how to or even necessarily want to learn to code. If you want to just chat, feel free to do that. Since unless I'm kind of locked in and don't notice, I'm easily able to stop and talk. But what you'll get is a lot of stream of consciousness of what I'm thinking and why. For example, this algorithm right here creates the absolute value of the length of the hypotenuse of a right triangle that has a base of 1 and a known angle. We're going to be changing this to calculate the height of that triangle. Which is apparently a very similar algorithm. I'm just going to check this math site here. Okay, which is unfortunate. Oh. Didn't mean to blind anybody or show them a digestive aid advertisement. So first we get this, which is still the length of the hypotenuse. The one on the Squishmallow is Sammy. He is our current resident tuxedo. So we could then say that just gonna is equal to, I think it's going to be math f dot square root. What's this one? Oh. Square root of 1 plus have a squared, or can I? Okay, we'll just do this. It would be that. Hey there, nope. The one above Sky is Mason. He is the frequently visible one of the tan and white brothers. There is a great deal of math going on, Kirito. Let me just comment this out. No, I don't need a GUID. For the love of God, I don't want to need a GUID. We're still in, like, pre-alpha stage of this stuff. All of what I've got right now is kind of demonstration code. But core gimmick, and what we're working on at the moment, or part of it, is we can see 3 of the 6 there, Kirito. We have Sammy, Mason, and Sky on the bed. You can see the bottom half of Sky. You can see all of most of Mason and Sammy. Or do you mean the little robot in the center? Either way. But you can drop little modules in here to create what amounts to composite weaponry. So make it split into 3, make it move in zigzags. This will make it try to latch on. Yeah. Make it try to circle the player, make it zigzag while it's doing that. It's a little harder to see that motion there. Let's actually try that. There we go. It's more emphatic this way. So the orbital motion is very strong, so it can override things a bit. If we add more of them like this, you can see the difference in the pattern a little more easily. You can see there's some that are kind of distorting up around. And then if we switch it here, we have a different spiral going on because I've changed the order. Can do spiral out. Yeah, I really want to recreate that. For a good while on this channel, what we did is we played a game called Noida. Like, that is what we did. And I made a mod for it, like a very extensive mod. And that's where the general look of this little guy comes from. This one is still moving noticeably slower. We'll need to adjust this one as well. We need to make sure we still have that linear motion baked into it. One of the things that we've spent a great deal of time on in this game is getting the performance good. Just above my ear, partially obscured by the little nameplate there, is the number of things that are currently in existence. Number of things doesn't account for what a thing is. But a thing is currently at least 4 different parts. But right now there's about 2,500 of them. And we're still operating at frames per second. There's a lot of footwork that we're doing in the background to make sure that we can still maintain that. Because we want to create scenarios where the player gets super out of control. We can put a cap on things. We absolutely can. But part of the spirit of recreating the Noida mod experience is to capture what we referred to as minutes per frame. We did not play Noida in the kind of traditional way after a while. It became our goal to see how big of an explosion we could create and how long it would take that explosion to play out, both in terms of clock time as well as number of frames. And the number of frames was usually very small, but I think our record was something like 5 minutes per frame. It was a very big and complicated explosion. Fire away, sharpshooter. What's your question? But yeah, this is it has unbounded visual frames per second. If we start it again, you can see that without much complication, we can get like 1,000 here. This would be bounded. When we actually finish this project at some point in the future, we would cap that number and not let it make more visual frames than it needs to. There's not really much use in having more than 120 or so frames a second on a 2D game like this is about all you need. Any more than that, and you're going to be wasting time. How long have I been doing this, coding this? I have been doing this. Okay, this is actually, I've got an indicator here in the stream title. This is the 139th stream. Generally, as far as coding streams, they're usually about 3 hours long. I do some extra stuff outside of this. And I've been trying to increase that. But this is largely like a passion project, and some of my back-end programmer OCD comes into play, and I spend a lot of extra time fine-tuning things. For example, the code we're going to be touching today has been revised, I think, about 3 times now. Or at least this will be the second revision to it. But this is the code base that I'm working with. Again, it's hard to see. I can zoom in the text, but I can't zoom in the tree there. But there is a lot going on in the code here. There's a lot of song and dance in the background to make this ordered and easy to deal with. Okay. So again, the zigzag, this height, would then become the pop culture representation of hacking, especially in the kind of 90s era of movies, created an impression of showing people either code or terminal lines. Terminal lines is a little bit more realistic, but showing code like this being dynamically written by somebody who is plugged into a network is kind of nonsensical. This stuff would happen, and then you would deploy it. And if you're at a terminal able to target something directly, it's less about hacking at that point because you're already connected. Okay, so instead of an offset multiplier here, we're creating a second vector. Oh, just turn off caps lock. Again, don't worry if you don't understand what's going on. Either just, feel free to chat and ask in general or whatever you want to do. If you do have a question about the code, feel free to ask. I will answer as best I can. Is not a good way to explain it. Oh, the last stream dealing with length of sides of a triangle was flashbacks to math classes that are so far in the past and to some extent intentionally repressed. Is it hard to code? No, I would not say that it is. It's a way of thinking, and it is a way of communicating. Think of programming as talking to the computer and requesting that it do things. Telling it to do things. And the precision and accuracy of your instructions is what you learn to do. The programming language is just the language in which you speak to the computer. This is in very anthropomorphized terms. Generally avoid doing that, but that's kind of a way to consider it. So learning to code is really just picking something and starting to run with it. When I started this project, this is my first major project using C#, the coding language you can see here. It is the first time I've tried to code a game. Like, actually tried to code a game. And it is the first time using the Godot game engine. So all of this is kind of a mutual learning experience with the viewers. Yeah. The reason I said it's telling the computer to do things is it'll do what you tell it to do. That doesn't mean you told it what you think you did. And it will often allow itself to be told to do things that are bad. Like in math, you can't divide by 0. If you try to tell a program to divide by 0, best case, there will be an error that causes it to not work. Worst case, you do things like crash the program. But it is perfectly content to allow you to say, hey, I want you to divide this number by 0. Like, that is an entirely allowed command. Oh, but I didn't know it would do this. This particular compiler, the program that I'm using to write the code, says, hey, don't do that. Starting coding language, this is a pretty good one. C#'s a pretty good one. It is not a super high-level scripting language, and it is not a super low-level intensive language. Oh man. I'm gonna say Tezcatlipoca, but I know that, and I think that's like an Aztec or a Mayan name, isn't it? As one of them, I think. But I also know that that is the romanization of the letters of those names can be way off. A lot of times the letters use more of the the pronunciation that you see out of things like languages that are closer to like Russian countries. So things like X is more of the sha sound, usually. Well, thank you. I can't guarantee that I will actually say that full name each time. We're probably going to go with Tez. Because I have to think about that one. Okay, then we're going to return here. Okay, so the deviation vector is dt. I will endeavor to remember that. If you notice that I seem to be talking to somebody that you can't see in chat, be aware there are actually 3 streams going on right now. There's a kind of a tall cell phone format on YouTube, there's a widescreen format on YouTube, and there is the Twitch stream. I do try to say what I'm responding to, so at least you all feel like you're part of the conversation. I do not have the chat on screen because people can't be trusted. I know a lot of streamers that haven't run into it. I have run into it. Okay. Numbers. So we have float. I may put this in a constant later. We'll see. Sure, I can show you what we're working on. And then I'll explain specifically what I'm working on. So we're making a Bullet Heaven style game in Godot. Think games like Vampire Survivors, Bioprototype, Hollow Cure, that kind of thing. Testing code right now. The sprites I'm using are sprites I will use. We have the shell of a lot of stuff in place. We have some testing code going right now. The bullet passes only to the right. The gimmick is that we have weapon generation things in terms of games like Noida, Magicraft, again, Bioprototype, where it is a sequence of changes to the way the weapon works to execute. So right now, this is the yarn ball weapon, this top one. It is set up right now to move directly to the right. That's all it does. Again, this is not what it would do in the game, but that's what it's told to do. So it's moving to the right at about 1 square per second. I can put this little zigzag motion on it, and now it's moving to the right at 1 per second, but the way the zigzag is set up, it's still moving to the right at about 1 per second, but now it's also got this vertical up and down motion to it. It is set up such that in addition to that up and down motion, it's also applying more force to the right, so that when those motions are mushed together, we still get the same speed to the right while still getting that up and down motion. The yarn ball has technically sped up. This wave one is one that I'm making changes on to make the logic of keeping it moving like that cleaner. But we have a lot of stuff like that where I can do things like make the yarn ball orbit. So it goes out, it tries to get into a fixed circle around the player. The faster the yarn ball moves, the more there is like orbital deviation. And if I move, it's not that the yarn ball set stays with you. It's not like a lot of these games have like a projectile that circles you. If the yarn ball isn't fast enough, it can't keep up with you as easily when it moves like this. So you can get this sort of dragging pattern with it. And we can combine a lot of things. We can make more of them. So I can get a bunch of them spreading out at once. Let's get back to center here. We can add weird forces to them. So we've added a random force to it here. So you can see there's a little bit of jitter going on at the center, but that orbital force is still pulling everything in. If I pull that force off, we should get a more ordered spread again. But we can keep doing this. Let me check again. I think, yeah, this is the 139th stream. The streams are generally about 3 hours. Some of the coding streams have ended at about 2 because, like any programming, it is very likely that we run into moments where I can't think of a way through and I need to do research, and I'm not going to do that on stream. Oh, thank you for the Prime there, DT. Thank you. Really do need to change my alert notification to just a ping or something. How about asking Claude? I refuse. Both ethically, but additionally, one of the things I call out whenever it happens is, here, I can show you an example. Let me see if I can get it to trigger. Okay. So I just set thing equal to 2. Then I said, hey, Visual Studio, I would like to set thing equal to, and it suggested the number 1. That is completion matching, and it is akin to what programs like ChatGPT, Claude, Grok, all of those do. Large language models are predictive completion matching things. They say, given everything that you have given me, and given everything that I have been trained on, what is the most likely next token that comes after this? They are fantastically complicated. There's a lot more going on there, but ultimately, that's what they do. And my question is, why is 1 the right thing to do there? I have seen it suggest things that don't make sense, that would not compile, and it is actually relatively common when you ask these things to give you a code chunk, that they can give back things that straight up don't work and are completely irrelevant to your request. Now, as far as how do I do this, yeah, I have used things like Google AI kind of stuff, where it will say, here's a summary of these, but I still try to go to the sites and figure out, why did it suggest this? Why is this the answer? Yes, it's, if you view AI tools as assistants, then you're in a good position. Like, if the AI tool assists, if the LLM, they're not AI. I know AI was diluted before LLMs came along, but AI is rapidly becoming, people are rapidly making it a synonym for sentient computer intelligence, and we're not even close to that. But a lot of these things are really good assisting tools. Both, find me references for this. Find me an example of this. Give me the skeleton of this. But if you have it do the work for you, that accomplishes two things. One, you have abdicated your role. You have said, hey, do my job for me. Do this thing that I was going to accomplish for me. Unless you check the work, then you aren't sure that it's actually going to function. Hey there, Drew. And that's bad. But additionally, there's a long-term threat to that. And that's, if I rely on it to write the code for me, my skill at writing that code, at understanding what the right code looks like, decays. We are already seeing this in education right now, and in as well as in a lot of career fields, is people are relying on generative AI programs to write their emails, to write their presentations, to do all of their like paper outlining and whatnot when they write research papers. We have lawyers submitting briefs that are completely AI generated. It is causing noticeable brain drain. Like already we have information coming out that is showing people are losing skills. And that's real bad. Because if all of the junior developers, all the junior programmers are replaced with AI agents, and we rely on senior developers to double check the work of the agents, but we still assert that they should be moving at the speed of a team that is the same number of bodies that it used to be, that senior developer is going to cut corners. So now you don't have a senior developer anymore either. And that senior developer isn't training new junior developers. So there will not be any new senior developers. This is hyperbolic, but that's the threat vector that we're facing. And we already have companies doing this. That will ripple through education. Smugums, there have been multiple instances of lawyers submitting a brief to a judge that includes case law that doesn't exist. Even better, it includes case law that cites decisions made by judges in cases that judges that exist in cases that they presided over, but the entirety of the ruling doesn't exist. It's terms like hallucination with LLMs are used to kind of dodge the problem. And that's that they generate nonsense. It's not a mistake. It's not, it made a little whoopsie. It's that it is entirely wrong. And you have to know that it is entirely wrong. So if you don't have a person checking the work, that issue is going to get through. So that's where it's your assistant. You still have to check the work. You still have to have known how to do it yourself. So it is not... It can be a time saver, but it is not a people replacer. You got to kind of look at it from a different perspective. And I do acknowledge the cognitive dissonance of the robot cat telling you not to rely on artificial intelligence. Hey there, Lunar. Let's see. Have I added the daycare minigame where you sort through them on a conveyor line, sending them to who knows where yet? Isn't there a 3D animated like family movie? It's like Storks or something like that. that is made extra amusing, Schmuggums. Let's see. I think I missed something. Somebody mentioned there's an econ that was in chat here. How old am I? Well, I won't tell precisely, but you can the only clue that I will give is that one of the early game consoles that I played on consoles. There were things other than consoles that I played. Was an Intellivision. No, Lunar, the one I'm thinking of had like this big Nexus delivery system of storks where, you know, the babies would effectively be generated and then delivered out. But the administration of the storks was trying to pivot off of baby delivery into something like Amazon. I am stabbed in my soul every time I see one of those engagement bait like Twitter posts. That is, you know, respond with the earliest game controller you remember, and the earliest one that they show is like a Super Nintendo controller or like a Wavebird. I think it might have been Stork or Storks or something like that, Lunar. Okay. Anywho. So in particular, you're asking, you know, what we're doing. So, you know, we're making a game, but in particular, we're changing that oscillating movement pattern to instead of being, instead of generating the vector along the path of the zigzag or the curve, instead of looking at that as the vector we're generating and adjusting for length, what we're going to do is, you know, quote unquote, simplify that by starting with a unit vector in the direction that we're already going and creating an offsetting vector to push it along the arc or along the zigzag path. The resultant vector from that will be what we're already dealing with, but by doing it this way, we actually open up some additional configuration options for doing things like amplitude. Early Nintendo had a lot of... There was a bit of industrial warfare that went on as far as the game development. For one, cartridge-based systems, especially the earliest ones with things like Nintendo, well, not the earliest ones, Intellivision, Atari, all of that were cartridge-based too. But when Nintendo stepped in to pick up after the gaming crash, their market dominance for a period created a bit of a problem for game developers. And that's that Nintendo was really restrictive on allowing people to jump in. So a lot of times game development shops ended up having to make their own effectively game engines and testing kits. It's not like Nintendo had an SDK that they gave to everybody. If you worked with them extensively and were on their good side, you might get a technical manual. But coming up with the whole basis for it was do whatever you need to do. And on top of that, the cartridges in some of the chips and similar were not things that you could just get easily. So there are a lot of game developers that had a real bad time trying to push stuff out. So I mentioned this, Schmuggums, because there was a particular vendor that made their own cartridges and I believe had their own set of chips that worked with it. And at least in the US, you would encounter these as like, they were kind of black and gold boxes, and the cartridges were black cartridges instead of gray or special edition kind of stuff, but they had like a protruding handle on the front. So they fit a little bit differently into the console, but and I don't know how this played out legally because Nintendo is like super litigious even back then. But it was interesting because there was that effort to make alternatives. Those were unlicensed, yes. Nintendo is burning up ever so much of their good PR lately. And it's not like they had an overabundance of it anyway. The Pal World lawsuit is not making them any friends, both in a public relations sense, but additionally in an industry sense. The patents that they're swinging around in the way that they're doing it is making a lot of like developers and also platforms uncomfortable. Let's see. Anyway. Meanwhile, this algorithm. So instead of creating, let's just pull this up. Okay. This is what we were doing. So we have the little angle in red here. We have an original path of length orange bar. We would rotate that path up. So we would go from this straight line to this angled line here. But the length of that vector would stay the same. So still orange bar. But if we look at the path that the orange bar was originally on, and we draw this line down from this new vector, what we can see is that the original distance that it was passing, if I draw the line under it, we have covered less ground. The projectile is moving at the same speed, but we haven't made it as far to the right on the screen as we were before. So using this angle and this, the known length of this being 1, we were able to calculate how much longer this line had to be in order to cover the same amount of ground. We are going to be changing that. What this lets us do is still cover that distance. It works okay, but it's harder for us to ensure that we have control over like how tall it is, that sort of thing. We can increase this angle. Oh, that's going to make things wiggly as well. Okay, yeah. We can increase this angle with the zigzag. That is absolutely something we can do on it. Alternately, what we can do is, and I'm looking at doing this, is instead we generate the green bar. So we have the orange bar, we generate the green bar. When it's a zigzag, this is a fixed thing. I know exactly how much force the green bar applies, and it's whether I'm applying a positive or negative green bar, whether it goes up or down. So it's just a toggle because the force upward, the angle upward or downward is fixed. Yes, Miniplex. For my sins, apparently we get to do trigonometry in our game dev right now. With the wave curve, it will be similar. It's that the length of the green bar will fluctuate over the course of it. To some extent, in great sadness, this is how we originally did these algorithms like months ago. But things have changed, and thus they must change back. Again. So the deviation vector is always the same. Like, once we've done it once, we know what it is. And we just have to rotate it in the same fashion. Actually, we don't even have to rotate it. Okay, so for zigzag motion, this is going to be very different. This part of the code here is the logic that makes a bullet move in like a Z pattern. I will demonstrate. This is part of the reason that we've had so many streams, is that I will derail and show people what we've been doing all the time. So right now the testing bullet is set up to move to the right. It moves to the right at 1 square per second. If I add the zigzag motion in, it still moves to the right at 1 square per second, but now it kind of does a very angular oscillation here, getting to about half of a square up and down each time. I still use a lot of object structure, but there are some essentially static classes that amount to bundles of logic. So, for example here, the zigzag motion is a little bundle here, but it is an individual. The catalog, not that one, where are you hiding? Where did I put that? Services, should be services? Yeah, services. Not really services, but kind of services. The catalog is, while an individual, it is meant to be a unit object in the setup. And everything is able to call it through the actual services object. Anyway. This particular language is C#. We are interfacing with the Godot programming, Godot engine. Right, it's kind of a singleton. The whole architecture ensures that it tries to make sure that it's a singleton. So we're using 4.4 mono, so it is the this is the Godot engine that can interface with C#. I do some work over here, so things like our startup resources. These are most of like our services and configuration stuff here. If I wanted to, I can swap out pretty much any of the major components of the game. What manages the inventory, what the inventory looks like, how collision is done. All of these are swappable bits. Which is part of where some of our complexity comes in, but it has allowed me to do things like rip up the floorboards of the collision system relatively easily without having to deal with really complicated branch commits and the like. Okay. Equal to Godot likes to use floats. Inexplicably, some of the major bridge points between Godot and C use doubles. C# likes doubles in comparison. So I have to convert a lot of them to floats to do the Godot operations on them. So I am trying to remember to convert a lot of my doubles back over to floats. I mean, I'd like to use decimals for them for precision. I'd also eventually like to put unit tests in here. But like any project, I mean, it's a, boy, I should totally do that someday kind of thing. Okay, so we know what our offset is. We can configure that. For now, it's going to be 1. Okay, so we rotate it, and we're rotating it either in the positive or negative here, is what we would normally do. So now what we're going to get here... Hey, Nariko. Doing decent today. All of the icy hot has kicked in. My upper right leg and lower back is now a pleasant, cold burn. I'm working on new mounts for the cameras that I have around to keep track of the cats. Some new infrastructure and types of cameras. But that led me to, you know, doing a lot of physical stuff that strained some of the bits. I do. You were around for the Hitman stream last time, weren't you? Maybe it was the prior programming stream. Within the last 2 streams. Let's see here. Why is your... Why can I not see your chat messages? Ah, there we go. Do I stream every day? I'm trying to stream every day. Monday and Fridays are kind of up in the air. I'm trying to get back into the pattern of streaming earlier in the day, and so I can go longer. My eyes can start to fail 5 to 6 when it comes to like focus and coding and kind of stuff. So I want to be able to go for longer. So I'm trying to start around 1 p.m. US Central. If it's Monday or Friday, if I do a stream, it'll be about 4. If you can't make it DT, there's always the VODs. They are available for however long Twitch keeps them around, and they're on the YouTube channel as well. Shameless plug. Watch my prior streams on YouTube. Miniplex, do I have advice for people who want to get into game dev? Okay, so this I'll start out being a bit glib. Get into game dev. That's the advice. It's so more complete answer. What you want to do is figure out, what do you want to make? What's your idea? Then what you're going to do is decide on some next components from there. Your game engine that you pick should be influenced by the type of game you want to make. Do you want to make a classic like old Dragon Quest Final Fantasy style JRPG? Well, RPG Maker and Game Maker Studio, pretty solid at that and are very beginner friendly. They have particular languages that are available to use in them, so that can inform which programming language to dive into. If you're looking at more of the bigger game engines, your Unity and Godot, if you go with something like that, those are kind of, you can do a lot with these platforms. Big games can be made in things like Unity and Godot. In that case, you'd probably shoot for something like C#. If you're thinking of going in the deep end, then there's things like Unreal Engine, but at that point you're doing a lot of coding in C and C++ generally, and I really wouldn't advise that as a starting point. Nariko, I generally don't look at friend requests or similar on Discord. I will try to respond if you speak in the Discord server, but direct messages and whatnot I tend to avoid. Streaming perspective, you get a lot of people advertising. Okay, so we rotate off of this, then we're going to get our move dot velocity dot orthogonal times toggle. I think this is what we want. Sir. Okay, so this is the rotated dot orthogonal. This rotates it up or down. Okay, I don't want the orthogonal off of this. Okay, no, we don't rotate it. We don't rotate it. Sir. Oh, math. I don't need the angle if I know the upward or downward force when it comes to the zigzag. I will need the angle. I still won't need the angle with the other. Okay. I just need the orthogonal off of the original. times toggle. Mason. Mason is demanding attention. One moment. What's the matter, buddy? Mason will come over to the side of my chair and stand up and paw at my side and chirp at me if he wants attention. Sometimes he will climb up and try to give me a very awkward, like, I don't really know what I'm doing hug. He has seen Ember crawl onto my shoulder, and I feel like he's trying to mimic that, but he doesn't really understand. Like, he doesn't like to be held or pet in the same way as Ember, but he wants the attention, so he tries to do that too. Mason likes heavy back scratches and belly rubs. Ember absolutely doesn't like belly rubs, and she prefers, like, stroking her back, not scratching her back. Okay. So we're not doing this anymore. We're not doing this anymore. Enough you. Copy. Paste. And this will totally work. Yep. So we get the direction off of the targeter. This is going to be to the right. We get a 90-degree angle off of that one. So in the case of to the right, it's going to be pointed down, I believe. And then we multiply it by our toggle, which is a plus or minus 1. We apply that to the existing vector. So this will be 1 in whatever direction we're going, and then we're adding another 1 in the offset direction. So this actually, again, speeds up the projectile. We're no longer moving at a speed of 1. We're going to be moving at a speed of root 2. Like I said, this will totally work first try. Ta-da! Okay, so now I can pull you out of here and you out of here. Now what we can do is we have our offset speed. So it's equal to that times offset speed times toggle. Then we add it in, then we adjust it for delta, then we add it to the entity's movement. Okay, so now our offset speed is 2. Frequency of the tick and how fast it is moving by default will influence this. If it were moving faster to the right, you would get a different look. Sorry. If the projectile moved faster, it would also influence this. Okay, but having done this, we now have a much cleaner pattern here. This angle doesn't matter anymore. Offset, multiplier, and radians doesn't matter anymore. Excellent. Still need offset speed. So this is that completion matching I was talking about before. It is suggesting exactly what I wanted to do. The surrounding code, very similar to that. It's fantastic when the assistant offers you exactly what you need. I have had it offer me things that would not compile. They would flagrantly not compile. All of that. Okay. I need to go into my data files. Go into our movement. All of the data for the game is in, these are CSV files, comma separated value files. The reason that they're not .csv like they would be, under normal circumstances, is that Godot wants to use those as translation files. I don't know why. But if Godot sees them, it will create like 20 copies of them. For different languages for the strings that are included in them. And that's not what they're for, so these are .game datas. I'm using LibreOffice because I don't want to pay Microsoft for a subscription. Already paying for Visual Studio. They're not getting anything for Excel. Okay, so zigzag motion now doesn't have an angle. It takes 2 seconds for the whole cycle to happen. We now need a, we call them offset speed. And we're going to say that is 2. It's a little clunky in places, but LibreOffice gets the job done. Go in again. We're going to make sure this works. Okay. So a full cycle, an up, the time it takes to toggle is 2 seconds. With a speed of 2, for the upward velocity, we get a deviation between them that is too tall. So 2 squares between the top and bottom of the zigzag. And it is still moving at 1 square per second to the right. We have grossly simplified that bit of code. Hooray. Okay, now we have to do the same thing to the wave pattern, but that's gonna be different. Okay. So wave pattern is... Let's fix this because it'll drive me crazy. Okay. So we get the cosine of a cycling angle. We have effectively a circle that we're going through, rotating around the circle. We get around the circle faster the more cycles we want. We get that degree angle and we feed it into cosine. We get the cosine, and currently what we're doing is we're getting rotation out of that. We are taking that as a fraction of 45. By applying the cosine, we're going to get a range from a smooth curve range from 45 to negative 45. We want to change that. Instead, we're going to be specifying the amplitude. There will be more, well, it's not really the it's effectively the amplitude. So there's fewer variables that we need to excise for this one, and for the most part, fewer means none. Our offset multiplier doesn't matter anymore. And we're not going to rotate here. So we have our cosine here. Not going to rotate it. We have set our velocity to be our current direction. That. Orthogonal times cosine. Okay, so this is taking the speed, the offset speed, and it is pushing the projectile off center based on a fraction of the offset speed. Twisted positive or negative based on the result of cosine. We're using cosine so that the wave originates at the point of origin instead of starting kind of above or below it. So let's really push that off by 1 here. Oh, make sure offset speed here. This should make the waves taller. Yep. We've got to really push on this one to give it the result that we want. Oh, hello, Hendry. What good news do you have? Okay, that's... I want to make this make sense. to play American football. Is this on like a team, or is it just an instance of you going to play football with a friend? It's with 5, so it's practically a 1. What's our cycles per second set to on wave? Takes 2 seconds to do a full cycle, so top to bottom. What if... Nice. Okay, a 3 gives us a distance between the peak and the trough of essentially 2. Hey there, James. Good to see you again. So we have we have come in a bit of a circle since so when we initially created wave motion and zigzag motion, we used an offset vector. So we had a straight line vector, and we had a 90-degree vector off of that to create the curvature. We're back to doing that again. I'm not super thrilled with how wave motion has turned out, because it's still not intuitive what numbers you enter into the configuration, but I think we're good enough with that, because even though it's not like immediately intuitive, you can eyeball it. This is orbit with a zigzag in it. This is orbit with a wave in it, and this wave has a up-down force of 3 per second with a frequency of 0.5 per second. If I change this around and say that it does a full cycle per second, we are probably going to get it compacted. Yeah, it's compacted. With both of them, the cycle duration also impacts the amplitude. I do need to set up an inward-outward force multiplier on orbit. We may have to circle back around to that. I wonder. I haven't tried this. Let's reduce the number of things here. let most of the swarm die off. Yeah, let's remove you. Get kind of like a helix pattern around him. But with this, you can see how other motion can distort the silhouette of the orbit. So we're adding random direction before we hit the spiral. Let's do random direction after. So you can see it's going all over the place right now. Whereas if I do this here, when we get to these, the direction that they're going to be getting will either be baked in here or it will be influenced by this. I believe both of these are continue as far as how they're set up. Similar to this. So by default, we're moving to the right. Three per second moving to the right. But if I add random direction here, it's going to like warp how they're moving. Because they are being dragged off of this direction. If I put this here, now the direction that they're going is changing after each burst. So 1, 2, 3, different direction. 1, 2, 3, different direction. Because here it comes, so we're moving to the right. This creates a deviation off of the right. And now this obeys the random direction. Or, I'm sorry, the composite direction of the random and right. That's why we're getting everything kind of going in this, on the right half of the screen. Because there is a unit force to the right. The most that random can do is negate that. Yay! Let's set our default to 1 on that. So the thought is with all of these, it becomes kind of eyeball it. Does it look right? You know? Okay. Let's get that committed. And we'll update both of these accordingly. Nice, nice. Okay, so this was the getting started goal, is I wanted to get those cut over, because now they blend all nice with all of the other motion that we can do. I could tune orbiting some more and add some more variables to it, but let's skip that for now. And similarly, I need to tweak rotation here because I don't want it coming out and going behind the player. I always want it coming out at the foot of the origin. So the spiral originates on the point and either goes down and out or up and out, as opposed to, in this case, up and around. This also isn't accounting for impact on horizontal motion. The non-orbiting rotate substantially slows movement. So again, we're going to need to apply both the original vector and the rotation vector to it so that we get both effects at once. And with orbit, what I want to see is that it is easier to influence it. Because right now, this is a random direction applied to it. You can see a bit of impact on them, but they're still all getting more or less getting out there to the edge of the orbit. There is some distortion at the edge, but it's not much. Assuming that given that there is a countering force that might be there. I want to see like elliptical orbits resulting from this kind of thing. The proportional pull should need to be further out before it's really hauling on it. It's kind of a reverse gravitation. The further away you get from it, the harder it pulls. Whereas if you're close to where you should be, so it's not pulling towards the center, it's pulling towards a particular radius. And the further out from that you are, the harder it'll pull. Okay. So one of the patterns that we're going to need is having it originate on the screen, somewhere on the screen. So random point on the screen. Where are our spawn? There we go, spawn point. So spawn around player isn't accurate. This is spawn around player off screen. So what I want to do is I want to add a variable to this, and that is a minimum distance. This is take a random number and it will be anywhere from 0 to 360. I think I can't remember if it's inclusive, exclusive, or exclusive. So it gets that vector and then it fires it out 960. So it is somewhere 960 as far as the screen is concerned. 960 is going to be just off the screen in most cases. Do a bit of quick math there. Hello, Boom. Hello. Just a moment. Math. Okay. So 960 isn't accurate. It should be a little over 1100. It should be like 1200 kind of thing. But what I want to add is a min and max distance from the player, or from center here. I am going to need to add to constant somewhere to say what is on screen or off screen. But this will let me create like a ring. So we're just going to default this to 960, and we're going to put the maximum at 0. A minimum of 0 is, big deal. It's a minimum of 0. That doesn't change anything. But a maximum distance of 0, or a maximum distance that is less than the minimum, gets ignored. Okay, so let's see, vector 2, offset. It's degrees to F. Okay, so this gives us a this whole thing gives us a radian value equivalent to an angle from 0 to 360. I don't want is for this to be actually 0 to 360. This does create a gap. But we'll leave that for now. So this is from 0 to 360. Then take U, and we're going to socket that in here. Okay, so this takes to the right. We rotate it such that it is pointing somewhere in a circle. Then we are going to get our distance here. Maximum distance is going to be 1,800. For now, protected, constant, float. This is not precisely accurate. This is slightly off of the distance from the center to a corner on a 1080p rectangle. So this is saying, by default, it is off screen to a distance of an extra half screen. Kind of. So our minimum distance becomes our starting point. We'll need to have like some sort of initialize in here. And have to make some of these public or set up a testing method inside of them. We'll see. Hey there, Tass. Yeah, that's Mason and Sammy. Let's actually see where the kitties are. Sammy is in full cat donut there. Molly is on my footrest. Burbet is unknown. Let's look closer at the tree. Ember is squished up there with Sky. She is mushed into that back corner. Oh, yeah, yeah. I had laid some cat treats out there on the stone. So there's probably delicious residue. We are currently witnessing why I spent some time yesterday and a good portion of this morning prototyping a new camera post. Hey, buddy. Hello. Hello, Jacob. Welcome. Doing well, doing well. Working on our code. How do I want to approach this? If maximum distance is 0, then we want to ignore it. But I feel like you have to have a maximum. That feels better. Making progress on the game today. I've got the oscillating motion where I want it for the moment. So pivoting off and just doing something completely different. We're setting up the ability to do a random spawn on screen instead of just oh, words and things. Instead of just off screen. This originally was hard coded to be off screen ish. I did not make this myself. This was made by what is now Kuramash Studio. They are a artist group out of Indonesia that does a lot of VTuber stuff as well as just commission art. They did good work. They did very good work. Do I actually have that stored off somewhere? I do have my Discord handle in my link tree that is in my description and in my YouTube video description, in my profile and YouTube video descriptions. I am willing to look at art that is sent as a direct message. I will not add Discord friends. It's not something that I really do. And I can't guarantee that I am going to respond. Currently, I don't have any need of like emotes or backgrounds or anything like that. We're covered. But, art is neat. If you want to send it with that understanding, feel free. I need to figure out... I appreciate it, Jacob. It's something that you run into a lot if you indicate that you are a streamer in social media, and just as much if you indicate that, or if you show any signs of being a VTuber, then you do get a lot of inquiries from artists. Thank you for the super chat, Taz. Thank you. And as a VTuber, one of the things is you simultaneously very much respect the artist crowd because they facilitate a lot of it outside of individuals that have, you know, honed their artistic skills themselves and make their own models. That's a different thing. But you got to respect that artists are out there and they're looking to make money. So I do not begrudge somebody putting themselves out there. What I do begrudge is when people feel entitled to the extent that they try to do hard sell tactics, and nuh-uh. But yeah, I mean, you got to put yourself out there as an artist, and you know, if nobody sees you, then nobody's going to commission you. Okay, we're just going to hard code this for the moment. I need to look up how to rig this properly. Perspective art is interesting. It's kind of like that trend that's still around of hyper realistic shirts, and that's that the way that the print is set up on the shirt creates the strong illusion of 3 dimensions. So it looks like something is like actually sticking out of the shirt. With people doing that with a variety of things, it's the sunken hole in the art kind of look. But you know, as Drew's mentioning, the mug that makes it look like you have a cat peeking over the mug or inside the mug, depending on the angle you look at it. Okay. Ooh. Oh, wow, Drew. I had no idea. Okay, I didn't understand that. So that was VTubing rig up so that the cat would peek over the edge of the mug or lay down in it. That's cool. That is cool. Okay, can't do it that way, so we are going to make a local for that. Okay. Initialize. So now our minimum distance is either 0 or whatever it's set to. Maximum distance by default, first we'll get our screen corner distance in here. There a syntax for this? I don't know if you know off the top of your head, Tess. Is there a C# operator for raise to the power of? Or do I have to actually manually do the square or the squaring? Do this nonsense. Ow. Oh. Hello, bestie. You've got one of those screen tags. Happily not one that we have to say no to. Okay, so this will get us the distance to the corner. That does not ring a bell, but welcome back nonetheless. I am still working on that game, bestie. Still working on it. Okay, maximum distance will be we need to add an end. Okay. At the moment, I just have a working project title, and we're going with Nyanite Survivors for that. That doesn't mean that'll be the actual title of the game. It's just the name of the project files. You know, it's like how the Nintendo GameCube was Project Dolphin. I think it was the GameCube. Distance from center to corner. So what we would want to do, ultimately, I want toggles for this, to be things like if this is set to true, then it will be on the screen. If this is set to, if this one is set to true, it will be off the screen, kind of thing. Otherwise, there will be some sort of distance from it, kind of thing. This is not ideal at the moment. So this will be minimum distance plus that times maximum distance minus minimum distance. Okay. Well done. Moving along there, Bessie. Okay. So first we're creating a direction toward like pointing a direction pointing to the edge of a circle. Then we're calculating a distance, and that is starting at the minimum distance and extending out to a point between the minimum distance and the maximum distance. So we will add anywhere from we're going from 0 to the difference between min and max here. So you're either going to get minimum or you're going to get maximum. Then we're going to add in here. It's going to be offset times distance. And so we're now going to need to go into our spawn points. Well, that's okay. There was apparently a LibreOffice update in the last couple of hours. My luck, they got hacked during the stream, you know. Around player, so about 1200. So we're going to call you spawn on screen. And this will be 60. Actually, I'm going to have to adjust this logic. This is not what I want it to be. Ideally, what we would then have is, in addition to a maximum linear distance, we would also have a maximum component distance. So the length and height of the triangle traced by the resultant vector cannot each of those can also not exceed a boundary. Hey there, Laura. We're making a bullet heaven style game in the vein of like Vampire Survivors and Hollow Cure. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to take that spawn point, go into our yarn ball once again. Needs to be a spawner. Is row 5. Spawn on screen. Hold it. How you doing, Laura? Okay. Totally work first time. It didn't. Wrong. Why did it pick 0? Put it off the screen every time. But let's look and see what it does. Well, that step is irrelevant. Okay, offset. I'm going to assume that is a unit vector, as it is supposed to be. Yeah, okay. Distance. Okay, I see what went wrong. Right here. We aren't doing the copy thing. To spawn player. Copy is minimum distance is equal to that, and maximum distance is equal to that. So these are boundary conditions with it. When this gets set, we are still going to run initialize. We are going to double check all of the values that came in. Could I make it so that that's not the case, or doesn't need to be the case? Yes. Are we gonna? No. Well, thank you for swinging through. Okay, so they emit to the right currently, but they appear somewhere on the screen. I need to incorporate scaling factor into this as well. We'll be able to see it better if you do this. And this. Okay, so this is the basis for something like the lightning strike style weapons, where they appear somewhere on the screen and hit from there. We could also do things like it appears off screen and converges. So it would look like something kind of coming in towards you instead of spawning anywhere visible. It'd be like it appeared on the edge of the screen and came in. Yeah, let's make it weirder. Going to just add a quick little times 3 in there. Behaviors already get the scaling factor. Did I do that properly? We need to make sure that the scaling factor gets accounted for in spawning. Let's run to here and verify how I'm doing the calculations. Maximum distance should not be 0 at this point. Okay. So the initialize function, just put this here. I'm going to make sure this, I missed some steps here, but I will show you the stupid that led to the error. So this function says if we're not already initialized, we're going to set up things like the distance to the corner of the screen. We don't currently have that. Really super useful, but what this is saying is we could actually, let's just do ×2. If you are essentially diagonally 2 screens out, we don't care about you anymore. So if you're going to spawn at all, you need to be within that distance. That has to be the edge case. And minimum has to be at least 0. Maximum has to be at least the minimum. And once we've done that, we have initialized. And then we never call initialize. That's why it's not working. That's why it wasn't spawning anywhere on the screen. It was spawning in very particular spots on the screen. Well, in theory, it should be spawning. Now it's not spawning anywhere. Maximum distance is way off. Okay, we need to alter that calculation. We want this to actually be is minimum is 540. Maximum is 540. Minimum is 0. Getting some that we aren't seeing. Thanks for joining us, Schmuggums. Distance does not seem quite right. We're getting some that are off the edge of the screen, but that shouldn't be possible. Like I was mentioning, Nariko, I have all the art that I need accounted for. Um, if you would like to send links to your portfolio or similar, feel free to do so. I'm always interested in seeing people's art, but there is no guarantee that I will respond from there, and I do not respond well to pressure sales tactics. Um, so you can go from there. So we don't want this to be the case because this can overflow it. So we're gonna need to do a better here. Distance. Should help with some of it. Still getting off target there. Zero and 540. Offset direction is set. So we should get a number from 0 to 540. Oh. But our world distance isn't that. No, that's also not right. So it should only spawn within a distance of 5 squares. 6 squares. Bit more spin here. Nice. Spawners definitely need wait states associated with them. I still need to get it so to when the burst fire ones trigger that they halt spawning until they're done. They essentially freeze the spawners handling until that one is complete. The difficulty with that is that it's not always true. So I'll have to figure out something with that. But we'll see. We'll see how this plays out. Yeah. Let's pull the fan off, put you here. Change this to that. Slightly different movement pattern that way. The reason it's slightly different is that both of the spiral types look at what the current motion is before they make their own adjustments. So if there's something else that is altering the movement beforehand, their movement starts at a different point. Some things like move random direction don't care what the prior motion is. They apply their own. Like an entirely independent vector. But things like the wave motions are dependent on the point of origin, or the originating movement once it reaches them. So we do need to adjust the orbital motion so that the pull isn't as strong, or at least the pull scales up as a slow exponential instead of a something kind of, for the most part, linear. That way, it needs to get noticeably far away before it's getting hauled on really hard, which will make it so that you can get kind of orbit deviation easier. Yeah. If we remove the default, we change the default logic on the bullet, we can get another test going here. So we need bullets and we need movement. I'm going to two random entity will give us what we need there. Not that. So instead of fixed right, we are going to do random entity, which, because there are no enemies present, is going to be move in a random direction. Then if we do something like this, oh, okay. So we have another flaw here. We're not counting for rotated when they're spawning off of a point like this. But why? Let's check a couple things here. Okay. So why is it not fanning them out? Because we definitely have those in place. Okay, I think I know. Yeah. Stop that. We will. Okay, so I need to check our targeters. Targeting. Entity targets. That's not what we want. Random entity. It shouldn't really matter, but I can rotate. Okay, this is not accounting for rotation. And movement for move straight line. Do move straight line. It does not need to update target because the base is going to update targets. Movement behavior will call that for a time passed message. So we don't need to do that twice. I don't know if that is a contributing factor, but we'll go from there. And by default, targeters have radians rotated. When you rotate, we add radians rotated. So we aren't accounting for that in random entity. Whenever we update the direction, we should account for that. Rotated. Radians rotated. Randomized so it doesn't care at that point. Okay, they spawn, they move in random directions. Copied. Why is it linking them all together? It's like it's not obeying the rotate when we copy it. Because when you copy a targeter, we get entity, direction, and radians rotated. Okay, we run. Start, we immediately fan it. The first one should be without rotation. Okay. Next one should have rotation. Yes. About 45 degrees. With float nonsense in there. Oh. Okay. Let's consider this again. Discard these changes for now. Okay. So it gets duplicated. So we're going to come in. There is that. Okay, we go in here, we update all of this. So we have set target entity, where we're going to update the lock-ons and whatnot. The event add and remove. Category, lock-on, reacquire, rotation. It's already got direction copied. And this is the turn radius, essentially. Once we have this, we can adjust these accordingly. Okay. Because this is turning radius stuff. Applying it the way we are is going to mean that if you have a fan target, yes, this should still work. You have to apply rotation on a case-by-case basis. Always going to have a local direction. Okay, so when we determine direction, when we copy something, we're going to have radians rotated. We're also going to get its direction. This one, just float. There are 2 times that we update things. Float, float. Either we are identifying the target here. So we have we are trying to keep track of the target. Then we also have, we are setting the initial direction. If we have an initial direction being set, like it's being randomized, it's okay that that's set. If we are tracking, then either we have absolute tracking or slight turn radius tracking. But we shouldn't rotate it when that happens, because then you'll have some projectiles that are supposed to be tracking that cannot hit their target. They will veer away from their target. So the initial one is going to handle all of this when it updates. But when we copy it, we should be able to do here rotated Radians rotated. So when we duplicate it, if there are radians rotated, we're going to apply it. That is relevant to this particular type. That is not universally true. Nope, still not working. Okay. That's sort of working. Huh. So if I double rotate it, it's actually rotating. Odd. Yeah, you can see it's a burst of 5 instead of 7 when we've got that. There's overlap during them, but one of them is still stacking up right on center. Because when there's just the two, I'm sorry, just one split, it stacks. That's real strange. Do we spawn it and then rotate it? Oh, okay, yeah, we're going to spawn it, then rotate it. And the subsequent ones that are copied have rotation to them. Okay, so this won't do. It needs to be when we need to update the target. So we need to have some sort of like internal direction stored here in order to get this to work. Use local entity. Ah, okay. That's so that we keep a reference to it. Just in case. For removing events is what we use that for. Or, yeah. Oh, marry you. This guy has come to sit with me. So it needs to be when we update targets. That's when we need to account for this. Get an entity target. If our target exists and we haven't set the direction or we are trying to lock on, then we're going to get in here and try to get a direction. So these will change the direction. This will change the direction. So this will veer around. This scenario is updating it to face our target because we're locked onto it. We need to make sure we don't repeat it. So like if we do target, proposed direction just repeats. It does not rotate. Target direction, when we're updating the target, we will, so we do our random direction rotate. Then we're going to get our local direction and apply that to it. So if we get a rotate event, that is a point at which we could apply the change. For those of you joining us, we are attempting to fix the way that targeting a random entity works. Right now, it doesn't have an entity to target, but the issue is, regardless of that. So we're going to be rotated after the multiplier fires. So we're going to create our copy. Let's verify that. Yeah, we copy it, then we rotate it. So it needs to be when the rotate happens, we change the direction. So then we need to look at targeter, and it has rotate. I'll have to adjust this to use float as well. But we'll get there. Entity. So then we need to override it. I'd rotate. Hello. Hello, sir. This guy was not getting sufficient attention. He was closing in for a headbutt there. He is also fond of that, rub his cheek along mine. But he's not quite, it's not quite snaggletooth, but he has very prominent, canines. Those, big front fangs. And he is prone to raking that across your skin when he does that nice little "I love you so much" face rub. I mean, ultimately with cats, a lot of times that's equivalent to you are one of us kind of thing. Or if it's an object, this is mine. Or both. But yeah, he'll get that tooth really get that tooth in there. See if that works. The direction of this one is either static or it is steadily rotated. So applying it once should be enough. There we go. So we can get these neat little starburst effects. All right, let's strain the system here. So again, we still need to weaken the orbital pull here. So that it's easier for things to pull away a greater distance. All right, let's get that saved there. Typing around sky at the moment. What this should also mean is that we might have to check on rotation radians as well. No, okay. We're going to get the angle too. So when we do this rotation, we should actually get fan out relevant to like the homing mouse as well. That is based on the turn radius of homing when it is spread out in a 90-degree cone. We should get them kind of arcing out and in. Which could be cool. We could get our anime cluster missile on a bit. Push those. Should have been with the spawn point update. Guy's head is propped up against my mouse side forearm here, so I can move the mouse around, but I have to reach awkwardly to get to the keyboard. There was a period when I was needed to finish some stream prep, but he came over to snuggle, so time was tighter. All right, let's look at that orbital motion here. Move orbit. We have a circular movement. Centripetal is inward. So we can use that in our... We could use that here. So our radius adjustment, here's the boosting factor. So we could just add a multiplier to this to weaken it straight up. And I think we're going to do that for now. So we're getting some nice pull in there. Same thing, still unimpeded. So now we're going to add some variation to the motion and see what we get. Yeah, having an indicator of how strong the pull is in the configuration, I think, will be needed here. So we can see this is just causing it to take a while to get in as well. I think having like a start low and then exponentially increase curve could be the way to do it. This isn't entirely the best test though, because we are spawning far away. So let's get that spawn point put back. To random entity. Then we go back to our bullet, which is here. Oh, and our spawn point for the spawner should be spawn on player. All right, let's get a better test in here. Okay, yeah, you can see more orbital drift this way. This is something that we could definitely play with a little bit. Because, again, we want it to try to converge on the distance properly. Because you want to have things like the Vampire Survivor's Bible, where it fires out in a group of like X at once, and will reach its point of rotation cleanly. Let's try to get that in there. We should have a multiplier that we can pull. So spread 5, 360. Now we go into our bullet. And we'll put that here. Base behaviors. Okay, so now the yarn ball should fire out in a 5-point starburst that will be that the core point will be aiming in a random direction. Just so. Now let's make them orbit. Because we do still want this to get to its to the edge state sooner, where it's orbiting around. We want that to be a strong force. We could weaken it the further out it is, but that's not really what we're going for. We still want it to apply the same amount of force, but maybe we can offset it. Well, I think we're okay for now. We're gonna... because it's already being made stronger here. Let's call this and just put that there. So we are not going to be applying a modifier to the force here. It will be steady. I think that's pretty good. All right, let's get back to on screen. This will make it spawn in a starburst at random points on the screen. Now we'll make it move to orbit the player from there. Yeah. Let's remove that boost factor there. Entropy. Let's do something visually silly. More stress test, I guess. Well, let's make this an excuse for more stress test. For reference, the current logic is saying emit 5 projectiles that fire in a 1, 2, 3 burst each every second, that will then subsequently split into 3 4 times. So we have 5 times 3 to the 5th projectiles per second being created. That is 81, 200, about, let's just say 1,000 things a second. So number above ear gonna go up, because the things live for like 10 or so seconds. We are getting a cool pattern though. We are very slowly seeing a cool pattern unfold. We are definitely under frame per second. So we are at seconds per frame. It's close to 1. You can really see the full animation of the catbot play out. Looks like we're sitting at about 12,000 things here. Let's cull it down. Let's see how long it takes before we get into plausible frames per second. Plausibly viable frames per second. Another reason that we don't cap the number of things is that we want to avoid a circumstance where things that should spawn don't. Is the game will do everything it can to spawn what it is supposed to. Okay, we're back up to frames per second, about 1 to 2. That's with 5 times 3 to the 4th. And again, any sort of multiplier, anything that says fire more projectiles at once, is going to be a rarer upgrade. It will have constraints to it, because those are pretty much some of the most powerful upgrades in any of these games. Is when you would fire 1, fire 2. More things is generally better. It will take it some time to calm down, because we have a huge buffer of objects that are kind of slowly unloading as we go here. If we calm it down enough, then we'll get back up to a stronger frames per second with stuff like this. But yeah, get some really pretty patterns with that. Yeah. you can see when there's a lot in the buffer, it takes a little bit before it, during the end, because the whole tree unload sequence takes a bit longer. Every entity that is present at any time necessitates an entry in the giant pile of collision objects, visual objects, all of that stuff. So all of those need to be accounted for, so we need to cache more of them. I need to tune the cache, because at the far end of everything going wrong, or going very right, depending on whose perspective, the cache can thrash a little bit. And what we want to do is make it so that there is a, how long has it been, or that kind of thing, before we have to deal with it, like decay the multiplier on the number of things you cache until it's not multiplying, and then start decaying the cache. Or as soon as I can pull something, I start to pull things from the cache, stop multiplying, that kind of stuff. We'll see how I can make it work. But yeah, I think, let me just check a couple of things here. Yeah, I think we're at a good stopping point for now. Find buttons. Buttons. So yeah, we hit our targets. We got our oscillating movement nice and cleaned up and simplified. We've tweaked the orbital movement. We added a new spawn point. The new spawn point gives us a kickoff point for a lightning strike style thing. A drop it from the air and have it spread. Now, but because of the nature of the game, we're going to be avoiding anything that is just a hit scan weapon, entirely a hit scan weapon. So laser beam weapons and whatnot are in reality going to be a rapid fire series of projectiles that will fire one after the other, kind of smearing a sprite along as they go, or particles, so that we can properly account for things. And motion can be applied to them. If it's just an explosion, then all of the modifiers, all of that stuff doesn't apply to it. It just happens and doesn't move. And that's not what we're going for. We want fancy stuff. But yeah. Oh, folks, if you like what you saw and would like to see more, remember to like, follow, subscribe, comment, all of those things that the platform lets you do. It does help the channel grow. If you'd like to consider financially supporting the channel, you can do so through subscriptions, memberships, super chats, and the like. Thank you again to Tass for the super chat. Let me double check our history here and make sure I'm not missing anything. That, and just making sure, want to make sure I haven't forgotten to thank someone. Always important. Oh, but again, thank you all for watching. If you'd like to consider financially supporting the channel, you can do so through platform-specific means as well as through Patreon and Coffee. You can find links to all of my platforms in the link tree that is in my bio on Twitch and the descriptions of my YouTube videos. But with that said, I hope the rest of your day is good, and I'll see you next time.